Hello, I'm Andrew Thomas Price. Welcome to my channel. Now today I'm going to talk about my 5 favourite bushcraft knives that I've used throughout my professional career. Now I like a lot of knives and I've owned a lot of knives over the years and I like to try different knives out, but these are the 5 that I've used on and off over the last 20 plus years of bushcraft instruction. So I'm going to start off on your left, which is my right, with the one that I used primarily when I first started dryad bushcraft back in 2004, and this is also the knife that featured quite heavily in the A to Z of bushcraft series that I was doing from about 2007 to around 2010, and this is the Kellum Puko, which is a very traditional Sami Scandinavian style knife. And I'll just take it out of the sheath. The sheath is actually wet formed leather, and over the years it's become fairly loose, but it still holds the knife quite securely. It has a curly birch handle and a rat tail tang, so the tang comes through the handle, it's quite thin, and then it just gets peened over and riveted at the end here. So it's pretty secure, not as strong as a full tang knife, which is something that I've moved on to for most of my work. But the steel itself, if I recall correctly, is a laminate steel with a blade length of around just over 3 inches. It's a very light knife, it doesn't weigh very much at all, and if you use this knife in conjunction with a saw and an axe, it covers all your bases. So this knife is wonderful for fine carving work. You can butcher a deer with it. It will do just about anything you need from a knife. It has a nice Scandi grind, which I modified slightly because when it came it had a micro bevel, which is a lot of the Kellum knives do have when they first come, and I ground that out and made it into a true flat ground Scandi. And I used this knife for years and I didn't really see any need to upgrade from it for quite a while, and then one day I just thought I really want a full tang knife, so moving on to the next one. So after quite a few years of using the Puko, and it's still a fantastic knife, I decided I wanted a bigger blade. I wanted something a bit more heavy that could be used for light chopping, and even if I had lost all my other tools, if I still had this one knife, I'd be able to do everything from splitting firewood to fine carving work. So I thought I needed a blade length of around 5 inches as a minimum. So I spoke to Will Adams of Bushblade, and this is going back a few years, and we threw a few ideas around for the type of knife that I felt would work really, really well. And I'd always been very inspired by the Bowie knives of the Old West, and generally they were very big, 9, 12, even bigger blades than that. And I thought that very typical Bowie clip point was something that had always really interested me. But obviously the traditional Bowies were far too big, really more of a fighting knife than a general purpose bushcraft knife. So by scaling it back to around 5 inches and giving it a Scandi grind, it became, to my mind at least, the perfect bushcraft knife. So this is a knife that we designed, so it was a collaboration between me and Will Adams of Bushblade, and this knife went into production, I believe, in around 2012, maybe even slightly earlier than that. But it never went into widespread production. It was always a custom knife. Will made quite a few of them, and this is one of probably a handful of these knives that are around now. Now, Will no longer makes knives, but there may just be a reinvention of this knife coming very, very soon. So watch this space. But I really like this knife. So it was originally made in 01 tool steel, which is a fantastic choice. Not an overly expensive or particularly high performance steel, and it will rust. However, it can be sharpened very easily and it makes a very, very good blade. We also have the canvas micarta for the handle scales here with some red spaces. And it's just a beautiful looking knife. Just feels really good in the hand, and I like the length of blade. That 5-inch blade works really well. So it's a knife that I really like, and I still use it from time to time. Now, another knife that I've used quite a lot over the past 10 plus years is this one, which is a bush tool made by Rob Evans. Now, the bush tool was previously designed by Mors Kahansky, and it was known as the Skookum. So this is the Rob Evans version of the Skookum, and it has just under a 4-inch blade. It has a continuous curve to the blade here, which makes it quite an interesting knife, particularly for carving. It works very well. There's no flat, it just goes straight into a curve, straight out of the handle there. It has a Scandi grind and it's 3.2mm thick. It has canvas micarta scales and interestingly has this welded on steel butt plate here, which Mors Kochanski intended to be used for hammering the knife into a tree, which could then be used to cut down small trees for making ridge poles or just about anything else. So that's pretty unique in knife design to have that butt plate there. It's a very, very strong knife, full tang construction, pretty much indestructible. It's not the lightest knife, it does weigh quite a bit, but if you only had one tool and it was this one, you'd be in a pretty good position. Comes in a wet formed leather sheath, and I probably will get a dangler for that eventually, but that's how it stands at the moment. Now, where I live here on the Gower Peninsula in South Wales, we have a lot of ancient traditions and folklore that go back thousands and thousands of years. And one of them is that you can conjure the fairy folk or the people of the West by chanting their name 3 times while holding a bush tool. So I thought we'd try it out. Rob Evans, Rob Evans, Rob Evans. Of course, it's just an ancient piece of folklore. It's not real. Anyway, another knife that I particularly like. We have the Larsfalt bushcraft knife by Castron. Now, this knife has been out for quite a while, and when it first came out, I really couldn't wait to try it. So I spoke to Castron, and they sent me one, and it spent at least 4 years on my belt, and I never took it off. So I absolutely love this knife. It's a production knife. It's one of their biggest knives of their range, and it was designed by the Swedish survival and bushcraft instructor Larsfalt. Now, it is a very big knife. I keep saying that, but it fits your hand very securely. It's not a lightweight knife by any means. Quite heavy. It's a 4mm thick piece of Sleipner steel. Blade length is probably a shade over 4 inches. It has the Scandi grind and beautiful curly birch handle here with brass rivets. Comes in a wet formed leather sheath as well, and I normally have the dangler, but I've moved the dangler onto that one for now. So it's a great knife, and as a production knife, it's just one of the Castron range that works really well. There will be a knife in the Castron range that fits you perfectly, and as I say, this is the one that I've sort of stuck to for at least 4, maybe 5 years now. It's a really, really good knife. And here we have the latest addition to the stable, which is the Lei Pro, and this is a beautiful knife, designed and made by Josh Westbrook of Fjord Woodland Blades in Somerset. That's in the southwest of England, and it is a gorgeous knife. It has a 3mm thick blade, Scandi grind, but with a very, very fine micro bevel, and the steel is AEBL, which was designed originally for making razor blades, so it's a very, very good steel for any knives. Very easy to sharpen, and it holds an edge really, really well. The handle itself is a combination of linen and canvas micarta with loveless bolts and black spaces. And that is a stunning knife. Comes in a combination Kydex and leather sheath, and I've put a Castron dangler on there as well, which you may have seen when I was talking about this, when I was talking about my bushcraft belt. So these are the 5 knives that I've used over the past 20-something years of bushcraft instruction. I've used other knives. I have different knives for butchering and things like that, but these are my basic bushcraft tools, and any one of these will do you fine. One that deserves a mention is this one, which is my Spyderco Paramilitary 2. And this has sort of accompanied me on just about every trip that I've ever done. So even when I have a bushcraft knife, I'll always have this one as well. And even though this isn't UK legal carry, this knife is generally my work knife. So if I'm somewhere, I'm allowed to be with a knife. It's really sad that we have to talk about that, but in the UK, we have a lot of rules to abide by. Now, it has a compression lock, which you can see just here, which is a very secure means of securing the blade in the open position. And very, very efficient and fast one-hand opening. The steel is CPM S30V, and the knife itself was made in Golden, Colorado, USA, Earth. just to be very specific. So Spyderco makes some fantastic knives. This happens to be my favorite one. The ergonomics work perfectly for me. And as a general purpose knife for just about every task, from cutting a piece of string to peeling an apple, this knife is always there. And it has this great pocket clip as well, which securely holds it like that. Now I must have had this one for at least 6 years, maybe more, and I've brought a couple just in case I lose this one. So it's one of those knives that I just think everyone should have as a backup to their main bushcraft knife. Well, thank you for watching this video, and if you've enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, subscribe and share with your friends. Now, if you are interested in any of the knives below, I will be posting links so that you can take a look at those as well. I'm also interested in knowing what your favorite bushcraft knife is, so please comment down below and let's keep the discussion going. Until next time, we'll see you then.